Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Everybody who's heard me on the radio for so many years knows I love pets, but I especially love dogs and cats. Everyone knows about Charlie, my dog, who is here in the studio and who has just been a wonderful companion for me. Thank goodness the radio station allows me to bring him because he's very clean. He doesn't do anything bad. But I always look for people who love dogs and cats as much as I do, and boy, did I find one. I'm going to introduce you to Lisa DePriest, who actually, you're going to know a lot more about her in May because we're featuring her fantastic book called Poor Teddy as Book of the Month. And I'm not going to tell you any more about that right now, but you'll hear more. So, Lisa, I am so glad that you are here.
I'm happy to be here.
And you really, when I talk to you, I think you're really a doggy in costume.
It's possible.
Because your heart is so filled with helping. Well, let's just talk about dogs for this particular show.
Okay.
When you showed me some of those pictures of maggots on dogs and dogs that don't look like dogs when you see them, it is so disgusting. I don't even know how to go there. So how do you manage this?
You know, I guess when I come across the situation, I just jump in because I don't know what else to do, you know, and I always wonder, why does that always happen to me? Because I know so many people, they say, how do you run into all these animals? I never see dogs walking on the street, and I certainly don't see it the way you found them. In fact, the one picture I showed you, my vet, when I brought the dog in, he said, how did you even know this was a dog? Because you saw the picture. It was just terrible. It looks like he had baseballs hanging off of him with just matted hair. And like you said, the maggots. But I don't know. It's always happened to me since I was a child. In fact, when I first moved to my new house, I've only moved 2 times in my whole life. First day I'm in my house, 2 cats on my front porch. I'm like, now how does this happen?
It's an energy you must put out there.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, when you think about it, though, nowadays, if you want to adopt a dog, you have to go through quite a screening. It's almost like adopting a child.
Yes, it can be. And it's hard for the shelters. I understand it because they put a lot into the animal and they want to make sure that the animal does get a good home. Sometimes they could go a little overboard. You know, sometimes people judge a little bit, and I know it's their heart's in the right place, but sometimes you have to sit back. Some people might say, oh, I don't know that they're going to be able to afford it. That's a judgment. You don't know. Somebody could have a lot of money and not be a great pet owner. Somebody that barely has any money, works 2 jobs, could be the best pet owner. So you kind of have to have a feel for it, but it's tough on the shelters also. But I know they do a lot to the animals. They invest a lot in the animals, and they want to make sure that the animal does get a good home, you know.
What I like, Deborah, Lisa, is that you can adopt it. I'm sorry, you can foster it first.
Yes, you can at some shelters.
And that gives you an idea if this is the right dog. Now, in my opinion, once that dog comes in your house and you're fostering, unless something's really bad, it's your dog.
We call you a foster failure. That's what we call you. We have a name for that, and we're always happy about it, but then we get a little sad about it, too, because we know you can't foster for us anymore. And I actually was almost a foster failure. I had some newborn kittens, and I had never experienced that before. And, you know, I had no sleep, you know, because by the time you feed them all, clean them up, they're all waking up again to eat. You know, it's in order. So I was exhausted. But when I found actually the perfect home, I was bawling my eyes out. I mean, and I knew I was so lucky that they went in this set and everything, and I still couldn't get over it. So I understand why people go through that, you know.
We have 2 people watching right now, Gary Polk and Seth Levy.
Hello, Gary and Seth.
I hope they're dog lovers, but let's keep going with this. The way I got this dog, now every dog I've gotten, I haven't gone to a shelter, it's someone who knows me, or someone that said, oh, I have to get rid of my dog. Do you know someone? They looked at me, I said, okay. But most of the time, people will go online. They'll either find a particular specimen of a dog, you know, a certain breed, or they'll go to a shelter. And it's rare, I would think, if someone really wants a dog, that they walk out of that shelter without a dog, isn't it?
Unless they're really looking for something specific. I mean, somebody like me, believe me, I would always walk out with an animal. But some people are really looking for something specific, and they have reasons. And I always like to remind people, even if you're looking for a purebred and you don't have it at the shelter, there's so many rescue groups now that are breed specific. So if you're looking for a pug, there is a pug rescue, German Shepherd rescue. So you can always search. I just always try to encourage everybody, adopt, don't shop, go to a rescue group or a shelter, because it's one of the only ways we're going to help solve the pet overpopulation problem, on top of educating everyone on spaying and neutering, because there's a serious pet overpopulation problem, especially in South Florida.
Well, I'm going to tell our listeners and you, I don't think a story I've ever said before, but I did tell you that I'm allergic to cats. I had three cats for 12 years, and I had asthma all the time. My husband finally said, you have got to give those cats. But we gave them to very good homes. Mm-hmm. But knowing I couldn't have cats, I just stayed out of people's houses until my son and his wife had triplets. And at the age of about 6, one of the triplets said, I want a cat. And they said, Mommy and Daddy said, if we get a cat, you can't come visit us anymore. So every time I went there, she looked at me with bad eyes and said, Grandma, I can't have a cat because of you. So nothing would do, but my son and his wife, who love their children and want to give them everything, found a breed of a cat that is mildly hypoallergenic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So nothing would do. He found it. He drove up to Jacksonville, and he lives in Miami, to get this cat. I will tell you this, though. That cat has been spectacular, and it has made a big difference for that one triplet. Yeah. Somehow she knew she wanted this cat.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the miracle of that, and it is true. It is hypoallergenic.
Yeah.
So there are ways, and there are people who are it's almost like they have a relationship with that animal. I mean, a real relationship.
Yeah, I believe it.
And so I accused Lisa when she came in that she's part dog, because even though she doesn't look like a dog, but she loves the dog, and she has this poor Teddy book that she wrote is so fabulous, and I'm not going to tell you any more about it, but you'll see it next month. So let's talk about a typical day, because you said you started out as a volunteer, and then you wound up as a paid employee
of another shelter, correct? Yeah, well, I've always had my little business, Basket Hound, and as you can see, I was always obviously thinking about animals. But
tell us what about Basket Hound.
Well, Basket Hound is a gift basket business, and I do baskets for people and pets. I opened in 1999. Yeah, it's been a while. I know, I can't believe it. But and actually, it was kind of, my logo was sort of my dog Charlie. Yeah. So he was a Doberman mix. He was a rescue also that I found. I've had a kind of a storied career, because I always do something different. Whenever I change jobs, it's always a really change of jobs. Like I used to be a real estate broker. So the reason I found Charlie, I worked for a developer, and there was a couple stray dogs on the property. So of course, I was, trying to feed him. But one day Charlie was missing, and I was so upset, because we weren't really open. They were just still clearing the land, but I used to go feed him. And one of the workers says, oh, no, they had to take him somewhere and dump him. I was so upset. And I always remember, because I had my dad's car, and I just had it all polished up for him. And I was driving around looking for the dog. I found him at another construction site, in a pile of white sand. I got him, put him in my dad's car after I just had it all cleaned. My dad never got mad at me, though, because my parents are the same. And I took him back to work, because I didn't know what to do. I lived in a condo. And the next day when they all got to work, they were like, how is this dog back here? We took him like 5 miles.
Oh, they took him?
Yeah, I was not happy about that. But anyways, I figured out a way I got the dog. And he was my pet for a very long time. And when I opened my business, I sort of made him my logo. So, that's literally like just a drawing of him, a simple drawing holding a basket. But I do, gourmet baskets for people and also for pets. But anyhow, so I volunteered at an animal shelter for years. And they decided at some point to merge with the Humane Society, because it's very hard to run a shelter, and we were on a real shoestring budget. And the Humane Society had actually approached us, one time. So we decided we would merge together, because we'd be more powerful that way, we could help more animals that way. And I was a little bit relieved, because I said, finally, because I was spending a lot of time volunteering, and I thought I could really focus on my business now. But they said, you want to come on board and help us with the transition? And I said, all right, that will work, part-time. And I wasn't even there a day when somebody left the job unexpectedly, and they said, we have a job opening, we want you to apply for it. So it was a very good decision. It was a very good decision. I'm happy I did it.
So Lisa DePriest is our guest today, and she just spills out all about doggies, and I have so many questions to ask you, actually. As a matter of fact, before I do that, I will tell you I have one other pet. It's a betta fish.
Okay. That's an easy pet to have,
And
right?
yeah, well, it's interesting. When I go up to the little bowl I have him in, he comes out and looks at me.
Aww.
I mean, there is something there. I don't know what it is, but I mean, here I am with a betta fish too. And Charlie is very interesting. If I come home and he's ready for his dinner, if I feed that betta fish first, he starts barking at me. He knows what I'm doing.
You know, animals are funny. I can go to work and I'd be around all kinds of animals. My dogs don't have any problem with it. Or my cat. If I come home from someone's house where they have one dog, like when I go home, if they smell Charlie, they are going to be like, oh, really? Where have you been? It's funny. I guess they know I'm at work. There's a lot of smells. But one dog, it's like I'm cheating on them.
You're so funny. Well, something that's really good is with the internet that you can get on there and find what might be wrong with your dog.
Yeah.
It's really great because right now my vet's thinking about Cushing's disease with Charlie, and he wants me to do this and that, and I had to read all about that. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that, but I even read about the betta fish because the betta fish wound up jumping out of his bowl on the floor the other day. I have no idea why. I saw this thing wiggling on the floor.
Gosh.
I thought maybe a bird flew in or something, so I grabbed him, put him back in there, and my question on the website that I got, I said, is this normal for betta fish to jump out of their bowl?
I never heard of it because the ones I've seen always have like the plant on top, so I don't think they can get out. But the ones that I've seen that people have. So.
Oh, well, I put a strainer on top just so he won't, because I don't know what's in his mind. But let's get back to the dogs. So now, one thing that most people don't like to see, and I don't, is the television show where they show all the dogs and their looks and.
I know.
Oh, it is so sad. Please just give us a little bit of money and then for this dog or that dog. But I always feel going to that particular humane society in your area is better. Is that true?
I think so because, they always say charity starts at home. So I think it's the best thing where you can see your results. And some of the big national groups, they're wonderful. But a lot of times they focus on really big issues, maybe, in other countries, which is very important also. But I'm sort of a local minded person because I always remember actually my vet telling me that charity begins at home. So, and that includes your own home too, because sometimes people get overwhelmed rescuing and, they might forget about their own pets a little bit. Not that they neglect them, but you know what I mean? They get overwhelmed. So just try to focus on what you have and then do a little bit more.
So tell us about, for people who are watching and listening, they want to get a pet. There are certain rules that they have to think about in their own life before they should really do that. Can you tell people what you would tell someone who came in?
Well, first of all, whether you want a cat or a dog, I like to think about your personality. If you're not an active person, don't get a husky. You know what I mean? There's things, or a Jack Russell, there's certain breeds or mixes of breeds that are high energy, and that's not a good dog for everybody. And huskies I kind of use as an example because a lot of people love huskies because they're so beautiful. They adopt them, then they realize, gee, they shed a lot. Surprise, surprise.
In South Florida,
they put them
it's
outside,
so hot too,
which is not a thing to do for huskies. And huskies are at the shelters all the time because they are escape artists also. I mean, imagine if you were a dog and you had nothing to do all day but figure out, how am I going to get out of this yard? You do it, so I always tell people, think it through. And there was a program a long time ago, I read about it, and I said, this would be great, but I think it's hard for shelters probably to implement. But there was a quick questionnaire to kind of get your personality type, and then they would colorize it, like purple, orange, or red. And they would tell you when you go up to look at the cats or the dogs, look for dogs that have that color on their thing because that would match your personality. And I thought that was a great idea because sometimes people get hung up on, I want an orange cat. But they also want a lap cat. Well, we may have an orange cat that totally does not like to be on your lap. So if you adopt that cat, you're not going to really be happy, and the cat's not going to be happy if you're always trying to put him on your lap. We could have a big black and white cat that loves to snuggle. So, it's when you're at the shelter, listen to the people that work there, that work with the animals, and it's important to find the right match for everybody, for the pet, for you, and for, the people at the shelter, because we don't want to see the animals come back to the shelter. But at the shelter where I work, we always take our animals back if there's ever a problem. Yeah.
Our administrator, Dan, has a Mangoon.
Oh.
Mancoon?
Yeah, I used to have one. Tiffany.
It is fabulous, isn't it?
Yes.
Are they all as loving?
I think so. The one I had was. I adopted her as an older cat, and she had leukemia. So when I adopted her, so I knew. But I'm telling you, I love that cat. Yeah.
How much did it weigh?
She was already older, so she was down to maybe 17 pounds. But, I think most of them, they can be up to 30 pounds.
Yeah, he has one. It's really big.
She's a female also, so they don't always weigh as much as the boys.
Well, yeah, he did get it as a baby.
Aww.
And so he has another cat also, but this is his pride and joy.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. I mean, and it's, it's that beautiful orange color. It's really special. So I was thinking about what you just said, that people have to know. Now, I wish that you were here and my cousin was listening, because she lives in North Carolina, but she got a Jack Russell.
Oh.
And it's like 3 months old, and it is a real problem for her.
Yeah.
When she was going to get one, I thought, why is she getting that? Because it also could bite. They'd have tendencies not to be a little bit nasty sometimes, because she had some others.
Mm.
But I didn't say anything. And she's already been bitten once, and it's driving her crazy because it doesn't want to be with other dogs. It's not compatible.
Not socialized, yeah.
So it's really been a problem. And so the reason I say that to you is, at least you have counselors. I'll call them counselors and advisors. So someone comes in, they would ask these questions, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would. I mean, we're not always the authority on things, but everybody at the job has a lot of experience. So, we all have had a lot of animals. One of the most important things I learned when I first got my one dog trained, he's a therapy dog now, walk the dog for a decent 20, 30-minute walk twice a day minimum. And that, believe it or not, takes a lot of their anxiety, because I think a lot of those little dogs, people think, oh, it's a little dog, but little dogs usually need to burn more energy than big dogs. People don't realize that all the time. They actually are more hyper. Even Yorkies, they needed to burn a lot. And that was a really important tool that my trainer taught me, because my dog, he jumped on me the first day in class, and she's like, don't look at him, don't touch him, don't talk to him. And I first I was embarrassed because I was in my uniform. I'm thinking, oh, geez, my dog is out of control. It was the first day of class. I didn't. He was trying to scratch me. She says, don't look at him. He finally sat down. She goes, all right, pet him and tell him good boy. He never did it again. It was unbelievable.
Really?
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't even believe it myself. Yeah. So, and then she said, it's important. Even if you have a big yard, it doesn't matter. They need to go for a walk, because a cage, a house, a big yard, it's all like a big cage after a while. They need that stimulation, to be out and do different things. And she also said, don't be talking on your phone. It's got to be a nice, calm walk. Don't be letting the dog pull you. And that's, for Jack Russell, you really have to work on that. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
So I have another question. I've noticed that my dog, Charlie, when I watch him very carefully, he wants to eat other dogs' poop. Can you tell me about that?
I wish I had the answer to that one.
I always look at him and say, no, you can't do that. I pull him away. But I guess you know what? Maybe it's the nutrients in the food that's coming out.
I don't know what it is, because my mom has a dog. They all eat the same food, so I don't know what that's about. And she tries to eat her own, and I don't have any advice on that.
He's not eating his own. He's eating others.
Yeah, and sometimes I know a lot of dogs, I hate to say, is they like cat poop, because that's definitely a
fish.
I hate to say this, but when I worked at the shelter, just because it's a little bit gross, we scooped all the boxes, and then one day there was a dog out, and he was thinking buffet, and we're like, no. Yeah, because we had it all in the wagon, to go out to the trash, and they had let the dog out, and he was like, this is a dream come true. And we're like, no.
Well, I watch him very carefully, and he doesn't get very much of it. He gets anything. Yeah. The other thing is, I like to talk about soup bones.
Oh.
I make soup, and I always buy the bones from the soup bones. And he loves them. And I make delicious soup with that soup bone. But he doesn't play with toys. He doesn't do any of that, but he loves that bone. He will chew on that bone. There's nothing on the bone anymore, but I think it's good for his teeth. And I don't think it's hurting him because he's not getting any particles from it.
Right, because it's a different kind of a bone. Yeah.
Yes.
That's the trick. I mean, raw bones supposedly are safe because they're not cooked and they don't get brittle. But I wouldn't want to give my dog any kind of raw bone. But I know chicken bones, rib bones. The main problem with those is dogs can bite them, they break them, and then there's those sharp pieces. If they swallow them, they can get cut on the inside.
Yeah.
So I don't really give my dogs bones because I just don't. I just never got it. Yeah.
And, don't do that.
But I know there are certain bones, like probably the one you're talking about, that has the marrow in the middle.
Yeah. But I just kind of get all that out. And
he's a little dog that just probably likes to gnaw on it.
Yeah, he likes it, and it keeps him busy for a long time, and he just loves it. I can hear him all of a sudden. It's going clunk on the tile floor, clunk, clunk, and that's what he's doing. But it's been joyful. And I know that a lot of people who now are going to hear this or listening, they really want advice. They say, okay, I've been putting it off. My condo allows me, we just had someone say that he lives in a condo and they don't allow dogs.
Big dogs, yeah.
And all that, but
boo.
Yeah, that's right. Because I think most of us are very clean. We try very much to watch our dog and to make sure that, that it's not going to be messy for anybody.
Right.
Because we all know better than that. So, if you could come back as a dog, what kind would you come back as?
I would have to be a mixed breed. I just know I'm a mixed breed at heart. I couldn't pick a dog. I know I could pick a dog that my dad would be. He would be a basset hound, no matter what. He loves basset hounds. I mean, he's a basset hound. There's no doubt.
What is your mom?
She's probably a beagle. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but in your book, Poor Teddy, and Teddy, I believe, was a poodle.
He's a poodle.
Yeah, it's a poodle.
Yeah.
And poodles are very, very special dogs, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
They're very smart, too. Who do you think, of all the dogs, what dog do you think is naturally the smartest?
From what I've heard, I never owned one. Oh my gosh, it's a black and white dog. Why can't I think of the name? It's some sort of a spaniel.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I can't think of the name.
But it's not a German Shepherd or...
No, I think it was like a report, the smartest dog. I think Basset Hound came in a little on the low side, even though my father is highly intelligent. They would put like a towel over their head and see how long before they get up. And so, the different things, how fast they take it off. But Basset Hounds are like, oh, thank you. I'll just stay here sleeping, no problem.
Right. So, but I think...
why can't I think of the name of that dog?
That's
crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are certain dogs that probably are smarter than others. Now, the Shih Tzu that I have, people really think that they're very alert and they really know. I mean, his eyes, he looks at me and he won't take his eyes off me. When I'm working my computer, he'll come in and you hear these little,
oh yeah.
He wants me to pay attention to him or take him out or give him something to eat.
I think all dogs are smart, to tell you the truth. I think it has to do with the way we communicate with them also. Because my dog, Charlie, my first dog, if I said, you want to go for a walk or you want to go to work, he knew the difference. I mean, and he would give me the cold shoulder at times, like, okay, goodbye. Yeah, he had a real personality. And I think people always say, it's you know what I mean? The way I
think you're right.
Spent a lot of time talking to him probably,
Yeah, you're right.
So I really do think they're all smart. Even my dog Yogi, who I have to admit is a obedience school dropout. I know, I feel bad. I took him in to make him a therapy dog in the middle of class. No joke. He just got up, walked in the corner, and took a nap. And I said, oh, my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. But you know what? Maybe he is smart. He doesn't want to go to work every day. He'd rather be home,
And so the therapy dog, so you have a therapy dog now?
I do. My dog's Sparky.
Sparky. Oh, Sparky.
He should be Barky because he does bark a lot in my house. But he's very quiet when he's working. It's unbelievable.
And who is he a therapy dog for? What is
Well, he goes to work with me at the Humane Society. We do presentations. He goes to hospice. He goes to the Children's Courthouse. He was the first dog in the Children's Courthouse. Yeah, so he does a lot of work.
I don't know what a Children's Courthouse is.
Well, it's actually the regular courthouse where the families go when they were taking kids away. And it's sad, sad things. So he's there, like some kids get yanked out of their home in the middle of the night. They don't know what's going on. The next day they have to appear in court and possibly testify against an uncle. I mean, that's a lot of trauma. And there's a dog there, so it's...
Oh, really? And so it's used really for therapy that they can pet the dog and forget that everything's so bad.
My very first day, the first day of the program, it took us a couple years to get it started. We didn't invent the program, but it took a while to get it all going. I know. But the very first day, this little girl, they said, do you want to see the dog? She wouldn't speak, and she had her fingers in her mouth, both fingers. And I was sitting in the children's testimony room, and she didn't want to talk. And they said, you want to pet the dog? And she just kind of did like a real quick thing on his head. And then she looked at me, she says, he's soft. And then she started petting him and talking, and then they were able to speak with her. Yeah, so it was...
So that really
you sent chills down my spine.
A therapy dog.
It really is. And I've seen kids, I go to schools, and kids are afraid of dogs. You see instantly, they pet the dog, and they instantly have a smile on their face. I watch it over and over. Even kids that are having a bad day, they just pet a dog, and they get a smile on their face. Yeah.
And something that I read, and I think it was an author I read, a doctor wrote that his cat, he brought it into the hospital, could tell if someone had cancer. Do you know about that story?
I've heard a lot of stories about that. There's some cats that they have as like residents in nursing homes. And there was a cat, it was a few years ago, he kind of was all over the news because he would go in bed with someone and they would pass away in a few days.
I must have heard that.
Yeah.
And they just have
And they just was there to comfort them. You know, I was always a dog person until I got a cat. And I really do understand why people love cats. Because there's something special about cats, too. And I've been fortunate that my cats and dogs have always gotten along. It's unbelievable. Nobody believes it, but I have pictures of them sleeping together, everything.
Yeah, I see a lot of that. Yeah, I think if they're brought there together, there's no
But they never
viciousness.
were. I mean, they're all rescues. So, I mean, I could have had the dog 10 years, and then all of a sudden there's a cat. But I think they kind of have a code like, hey, just be cool and we can all stay here. She's all right. Just be cool.
Well, the one problem that happens with cats is unless you get them fixed, spayed or something, they keep having more cats and there are too many cats. And
Every
that's what
6
you
months.
said when you got on the show. That
it's very important.
It's a very big population.
Very big. I mean, they have them every 6 months, average 3 a litter. So you can imagine the first year you already have 12 new cats. What people don't know is cats start to have kittens when they're only 6 months old. So they're kittens, having kittens, And by year 10, which is about as long as they reproduce, it could reach over 80 million cats. It's unbelievable, but they've worked the numbers through and through. It's a lot.
And so you advise if someone does find, well, of course, if they get a cat, they should have it spayed and neutered. But if there's some feral cats around, they could call. Think you could call the Humane Society, and they'll do that, and they'll let them out, though, won't they?
That's called trap, neuter, and release. They cannot usually go pick them up because it's very hard to catch a cat if you're not familiar with a cat. So it's usually the person that's feeding them has the best chance. And they have services where they'll do the surgery for free, and they do like an ear tip. I don't know if you've ever seen a piece of a tip of a cat. That means they're spayed or neutered. That's for people like us that we see cats later. Like, then you see the tip, you say it's already spayed or neutered. We don't have to spend our time trying to catch that cat. So that's important. And the more people that do that, when I go to do presentations, I just tell everyone, if everyone in this room just caught one cat spayed or neutered, we make a huge difference.
Well, listen, Lisa DePriest, we are going to have you back next month, and we're going to do your book review on Poor Teddy, which is so adorable. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.